I'm really pursuing this other project that took place. It was an incident back in 2013 where this disgruntled ex-LAPD officer went on a shooting spree in Southern California for 10 days and was going around and shooting cops and killing cops because he felt that he had been unjustly removed from the job. He had been terminated from the LAPD, and he sued to try to get his job back, and he couldn't. So then he retaliated by going on a shooting rampage. And over a period of 10 days, it was one of the biggest manhunts in California history. And they ultimately found him up in Big Bear in a cabin.
Oh, I remember that. I didn't know that that's what he was doing before. I remember that because I frequent that area often up in the mountains.
Yeah, Christopher Dorner was his name.
Yes.
And so
I know that name.
Christopher Dorner.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting story that's never really been told comprehensively because there's so many elements to it and a lot of relevant social issues behind the whole story that I'm hoping to tell this story in some type of fashion.
So that's what I was going to say. Are you getting someone to help? Are you writing a book or a documentary first, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, we've been pitching a documentary, but I'm getting frustrated and impatient with the process, and so I'm going to at the very least, we've already done a dozen interviews and would like to do this at the very least as a podcast and then see where that goes.
Well, I'd love to invite you back real quick. Sorry,
yes,
but I'd love you to come back and talk about that as well. And I can't believe it's 15 years already. But go ahead, Jamal. That's crazy.
You are starting a podcast, correct?
I am. I've got my studio all set up. I'm just trying to figure out how to do this technically because I'm not technically inclined.
You got me. I live
Appreciate
right up
that.
the way. And what is your podcast going to be mainly focusing on?
Most likely true crime. We're just going to deal with true crime issues, but as hopefully not just generic true crime, but true crime that's socially relevant.
Got you. Because you could bring me in as your hip hop analyst.
Okay.
And we could talk about hip hop stuff if that's something. Because I thought your podcast was going to be covering like Young Thug's case and like just hip hop stuff. I was like, wow, this will be crazy.
Yeah, I don't want to appear to be like a culture vulture. I don't want to be.
You're
it's a place
police
that
officer.
Yeah, but I'm not an expert by any means.
But you're
in
an
those.
expert at crime. So since you did this Biggie Smalls Tupac stuff, you're not Vlad. So it's not like you're trying to come in and like they call Vlad a culture vulture all the time. It's just like you're an expert at like knowing charges and things like that.
Right.
And people want the information from a credible source.
Right.
So if you did cover some hip hop stuff, at least we know you know what you're talking about.
It certainly wouldn't be off the table to cover stories that, like for instance, my partner investigated Nipsey Hussle's murder, and it's talking about what happened in that and how that all took place would be a really good conversation to have in a public forum.
Of people like him versus, like I was saying earlier, versus a Puff Daddy. People love Nipsey Hussle. People don't necessarily love Puff Daddy.